I just wanted to capture the absolute delight and frenzy of revision. I love revising. I love writing. I'm like in a mode. I'm in a mood. I'm in the zone. I just kind of want to talk about why revising can be so intimidating, but also really, really fun. I'm just documenting this again, the journey. A quick recap of just, what I'm doing is basically I am working on a lot of different things all the time, writing-wise. One novel that I have a contract with my agent for, and that book is called Oh Stranger. I have Mage Boy, which is my favorite book I've ever written so far. It's definitely not perfect, it's definitely not for everyone. I think it's actually really unmarketable, such is life. I have Sun Dogs, which is my novel in progress, and that's about angels in the end of the world. Oh Stranger is like my gothic novel that I'm working on, and it's been a really, really interesting and long process of writing this book. It started out being about like cannibalism and whatever, and I started it when I was right out of college, and I was 22, so I really didn't know what I was doing. But I'm 27 now, and just so much wiser. Ho! The novel has evolved a lot, and in 2019 I signed on with my agent, and she was able to really help guide some great concrete revisions that were much needed. And from there, I was also able to think about what is this story really about? And I started to really cut down and find the true focus of the story. Because I started it when I was so young, it was a really, really chaotic and crazy process. I finally feel like I'm actually making great breakthrough, because this book is the book that's like always been that project that's like, God damn it, like this just isn't right. I love it from a place of fondness, but it sucks. And like, maybe I'm being a little too hard on it, and like maybe I should have just given up on it a long time ago, and maybe I still will give up on it sometime. I don't know. It's just like one of those things I just can't help obsessing over. That's what I love about writing. It like really, like, I'm somebody who really does obsess over things, and I like obsessing over things, and like I love obsessing over my writing projects, and I love when every little thing revolves and connects back to them. So with Oh Stranger, I'm kind of entering this new stage where it feels like it's finally becoming the book I always wanted it to be. But it took this really, really long, like Frodo and Sam type, really long roundabout journey to get here. I had a call with my agent last week. It was interesting. I won't really go into it. She had a lot of really great suggestions. There were some suggestions I was like, this is really making me rethink how the story is perceived and how I want it to be perceived. And like I've talked about before, we really have no control over how somebody responds to and reacts to our writing, but there are certain things we can do to help guide people's reactions and responses and the way they absorb the story, right? I've decided to do some really major overhauls to this book, and I really hope it works out. So I just wanted to document what that process looks like for me. After this conversation with my agent, I really had to sit down and think about, what do I want the book to be about? What do I want people to get from it? And how should the story be shaped? And story shape is something that's interesting to think about, and I read about it in this book called Meander, Spiral, and Explode, which I will link in the description. I got some really good feedback about how to restructure the book, but that also made me think about the different conflicts in the book. So with this in mind, that I had to do some serious major revisions, I was in a crisis all weekend. I was like, I don't even know where to start. I don't know what I want this book to look like. And from there, I had to go into my process for revising. So the first thing I did was I looked back through all my notes, and this is my journal from just the past 6 weeks, and I'm already done with it. I just go through journals quickly, but I decided to go through all of each page of my notes and color code by project where I have notes and thoughts and random ideas written down. So blue is for Oh Stranger, pink is for Mage Boy, and yellow is for Sundogs. After the conversation, I really had to sit down and think about how I want the story to flow and what should happen when, and basically re-outlining the whole book. So that's what I did in my pages. Then I printed out the manuscript. Because this wasn't a draft I was going to be line reading, I printed it out so that it's 4 pages per page so I could save paper. Printing out the manuscript allows me to quickly flip through and see how the story flows, because honestly there have been so many drafts of this book that it's hard for me mentally to keep track of what happens in each draft sometimes. I will take notes on each page, and while I'm doing that, I outline the existing structure versus the new structure on note cards so that I have 1 note card per chapter, plus any changes that need to be made, anything that needs to be moved around, and plus any changes or any chapters that need to be taken out. My next step is going to be to start working through this and reading it on my computer, making these changes in a new document that's a copy of the old one. So I'll be like copy pasting it as I work through it and writing new scenes as needed and removing old ones that are no longer needed. In the meantime, as I come up with ideas, I will have this sticky pad, a lined sticky pad that I can take and put each note corresponding to the chapter as I see it in the manuscript so that it becomes a really visual process. For example, this is a draft from last year. Wow, this draft is old. Wow. And then sometimes I like to have a separate document on the side that's more of a checklist of all the changes that need to be made. It seems really chaotic, so this is not a good video for like how to revise. I'm just so excited to be revising. Revising is a thrilling and satisfying process. The problem-solving aspect is just, it's like a mental racetrack. You can just enjoy the, like, I don't know, it's just my favorite kind of problem solving to do. And even though it can be really, really frustrating, especially when you feel like, oh, it's just not working out and I can't figure out what needs to happen when, and I can't figure out what the missing pieces that will make all this fit together. Once you do find it, it's like the most exhilarating feeling in the world. And I think that's why revising is just probably my favorite part of writing. When it comes to novel writing, like first drafts, that's all well and good. Sometimes it's just hard to get things down on the page, but revising, it's like you have a foundation already and now you get to really build and be creative and explore things, and you get to obsess over language, and you get to, you know, find new paths and things to explore. I just really hope that someday I can write a book that I'm proud of, if that makes sense. You know, like, because revising, you tend to be really, really critical of your work, and there is that really fun aspect of it, but sometimes it's just like you're revising and you're like, oh, this sucks, I'm never going to be happy with it. Every time I go through these revisions, this revision process, I become hopeful that I'm getting closer to writing the kind of book I want to write. It's a humbling process, but it's so fun. I have a vacation to Europe next week, and I'm like, damn it, this is interrupting my writing time. Like, I'm like, I really need to finish all of these revisions at once. Otherwise I'm gonna lose, like, I feel like I'll lose track of it again. But no, I'll have fun in Europe, and the revisions will be waiting for me when I get back. Unless I pull an all-nighter every day this weekend and maybe take a day off of work or something. But that would be kind of crazy, so I'm not gonna do that. Time to think on the plane and stuff will give me new ideas. Anyway, thanks for joining. I'm off to go revise and do some good writing.